tools such as Grok or Perplexity, when they went and searched through the internet, the outcomes or the technical way that they did it was quite a bit different than what I had imagined. But I posted that on my page, on my feed, which is very interesting to me, at least. And I'm excited to get into it today. I'm sure that we're going to have Vladimir and Sanin continue their discussion about Vladimir's utility score, AI utility score, which I think, the industry is going to have something like this. I think it's very important that a utility score comes about. I think that it's going to be helpful to anyone creating anything with AI, so they can give it a basic utility of how it can save money, what it can do, and if there were certain parameters that have to meet. I think that's very important. It's really exciting right now to be here in this space at this time, because as I do certain things, I see other people are starting to get the same thoughts are going on in their head. And yeah, I went into Google Analytics just to see, and did some deep diving. Currently, there is no way to track AI visits to a website, to a Google business listing, that it will show you the Google or direct visits, but the AI search does not show as a direct visit, nor does it show as an organic visit, which is very interesting because there's a lot of money involved in search and quantifying search metrics, and so somebody's gonna come up with a solution very quickly, I imagine. Andy, how are you doing this afternoon?
I am doing good. I'm broadcasting a live stream. So if you notice, we have the AI Biz Hour account logged into the space, and I want everybody to join and follow that. We're going to start using that to send out live streams and other things. And both John and I are going to do that as well. And then earlier today, I was on a webinar from a middleware company called Qlik, Qlik, and they do like interface, right, between all the stuff that I talked about the last couple of days. They were talking about using agentic AI and RAG processing and all kinds of the other things to extract and do all of the data conversions and data interfaces between enterprise systems. All the stuff that I talked about today. I was on a space. There were a couple of hundred people from around the industry all listening in, for them sharing the exact same thing we've been talking about. So not only are we on the front edge of what's happening, but now other companies are starting to actually execute and do those things. So yeah, very exciting, very interesting. And if you're focused in one little tiny niche, you can make a lot of progress really fast.
Yes, and it was interesting, Jason talking yesterday about where he was for a solution. I saw actually Jason also from All In Podcast. He had somebody that has created kind of an AI agent for emails, and it's interesting though, because you had many inputs that you had to put in. You had to put in, filters and identify, emails that have these parameters, and this is the parameter of response, which, it makes me go back to 11 years ago, I think it was, or 2011, with Watson, and they had this AI, what they called an AI agent for websites, and you had to put in every outbound response. And it's still, we talked about this yesterday, the AI it can do things very fast, but it does. I had a conversation yesterday, and there's so many things that humans pick up so quickly that it just has a blind spot to. And so it's, there's still a need for hand done work within certain executional things that need to be done, such as sorting through emails and stuff. You still got to go in there and kind of create your own template. And I don't know at what point we will have agentic AIs kind of, following you and seeing how you do things, and then figuring out without you having to train it too much or to tell it what to do. But yeah, things are moving very, very fast.
Yeah, it's surprising. It's even moving faster than I thought. I had mentioned it many times how I thought it was going to be a year or two away, and then that turned out okay. September, when I talked to my friends, I said, hey, I want to be able to send information into a database, have the LLM self-organize it, so I don't have to create the tables and structures and interfaces and the keys and all of that stuff. And they said, oh, that's 2 years away of programming. And that turned out to be like 2 months away. And then we had Mongo and vector databases that Ross has showed us. And then you have that plus, so those are real database data storage systems as a data lake, as opposed to just a blob storage of just content that it can pull out. So it's self-organizing as it loads that into Mongo. And then we talked about making those things sequential and turning those into kind of sequenced activities, and then turning them into agents. And they said, oh, that's 2 years. If you come up with an idea today, I think it's 2 months away from somebody actually executing it. That's what I think, how fast it's going.
Oh yeah, and it was interesting. I was on with Tech in Schools last night. They're going to start season 7 today at 3 p.m. Pacific time, 6 p.m. Eastern time. And we had a little discussion about AI agents, because they have now a workflow where you create workflows that then I can house in a Vercel app, or in some app that is usable by people on the internet. And just the definition of AI agent, it's really any kind of workflow that you can create using AI. But like what we talked about yesterday, for complex tasks, you still need multiple agents or I guess workflows that are orchestrated together to perform something that's more. And the simpler the tasks are pared down, the more consistent the outcome. And that's the thing that I'm realizing is what you got to do, especially if you're having a product or something that's out in the marketplace. You've got to make sure that the thing is consistent. It does take work, but my goodness, the coding abilities are crazy if you're not a master coder, but you understand certain concepts and you use things like Claude. And yesterday I did a huge content creation with Claude that was really amazing. I've been working on this book, and I put it into it, and it really kind of buttoned it up. I'm going to be able and I think it's a good book. It's a book that goes into kind of detail about what's happening with, and everybody needs to understand this, that we are going through major changes in how data and businesses and products are being found. And the fact that you can't get any data right now from AI search is very interesting. But so it goes into that.
If you think about kind of the progression, the first progression is that we know what we want to get an answer to. Then we go, okay, I can get an answer to that. Now, can I connect it to some data source? Okay, now can I get a predictable response? Okay, now can I then amplify and do things? It's just this progression of iterative thought and iterative problem solving, which is what humans do exceptionally well. I mean, if you want to take humanity and say, what is the one thing that humanity does? Humanity is unstoppable in its ability to imagine solutions to problems. right? Whether it's a good or bad problem, it doesn't matter. You can come up with 100 different ways to do it. And then you can have some other kid who's never seen it, never talked about anything, have no idea, come in and say, and just give you a whole different view of how to solve the problem. I mean, humans are amazing at that. And so I would, just as a side note, I encourage you to go back to your childhood and create, or at least find, that sense of childhood wonder of looking at things and saying, how does that work? What if we tried this? What if we tried this other thing? That's stupid. That'll never work. Don't ever do that. If it doesn't cause anyone to die, get injured, or destroy you financially, why not? Who cares? Try it. It's awesome. And in today's world with AI, I mean, literally in December, I was on a space and they said, what's the craziest thing you've ever done? And I said, well, AI doesn't really have context. So I asked it to create a test to see if humans have context when they're talking, all of that stuff we talked about, the context and subtext of the language. Well, if it doesn't have it, how do we create the test? Right? Okay, I ran that same test on Grok 3. It gave me a pretty good test, which I'm refining. And when I figure it out, if it works or not, I'll let everybody know. But the fact that from December to February, we now have subtext and context, at least in English. I don't know, because I can speak taxi in other languages. Hello, how are you? Take me to the airport, take me to the hotel. I can order food. I can say left and right. I can curse at them so they don't take me in the wrong place. But I'm not conversant in other languages. There's no subtlety in, if I try to speak French or German or Italian, there's no subtlety. There's just block, first grade, I want food, give me steak, take me to airport, kind of, where's the bathroom kind of talking. So I don't know about the other languages, but in English, I know how to say those same things about 20 or 30 different ways, as we all do. But now Grok is able to do that as well. And it's able to understand some of the nuance between, hey, if there's a guy in the bushes and he's talking to a girl on a balcony, is he a little short guy with a big nose, right? Or is he, a Capulet? So either way, it's interesting to figure out how those things work, and Claude and all this stuff. It's just accelerating at an accelerated curve, right? It's not a linear straight line up. It's amplifying on top of every day. It's fascinating, and it's awesome to be part of the world today.
Yeah, and I'd really love to hear from everybody here, I know everybody here must be working with AI on a regular basis. The one thing that I've been doing, which is I find really fun, I'm really into esoteric astrology, mysteries and stuff like that. And the AI really understands it well, and Grok is really great at it. And so, like, I put together a year plan, and then I put in my chart, and then I said, what are the, let's find dates that align with, my goals and aspirations. Does this line up for this, that, and the other thing? And I think I mentioned this the other day. And it's just, it's really, I can't wait till I combine that with Grok's voice, so it can kind of be just like my little, a coach type of thing. I mean, that's the kind of coach I'd like. So I can create it. And it's really wild. But I'd love to hear, like, what, everybody has their own thought processes, their own things that interest them. And I'm sure that a lot of people are kind of going down things that aren't rabbit holes anymore, because a couple months ago, ChatGPT would take you down some rabbit holes where you're like, oh, can you do this? Can you do that? And then after a while, you find out that it's kind of, not really able to pull off what it says it's able to pull off. But now that we have what workflows, AI agents, whatever you want to call them, we can turn them into apps through through Vercel or some form like that. And then we can get them to work for ourselves as well as put them out in the market, see if there's a market for that, which there might probably is going to be a flood of little things that do very specific things that are very personal to people. And that are going to be like $1 or what have you, or this, that, or the other thing. And they'll be specific for people's interests as well as businesses. You know, and I think that that's going to really start hitting the market in a couple of weeks or something. But it's fun. So if anybody here who's listening in has done something that's creative or interesting or surprised them, or if you want to know of platforms where you can do these things that don't break the bank, just love to hear all of that, because that's part of why I think this room's so powerful, the space is so powerful, is that we are all on this wave, as Andy says. You ride the wave and you go through it. Can you tell that analogy again, Andy, about the wave and the
Yep.
beach?
Get your surfboard and learn how to surf AI, the tidal wave of AI, because if you're not surfing it, that will accelerate you to the heights. You're going to get crushed by the tidal wave of AI.
There's a jungle and then there's a mountain. Yeah, if you ride it all the way up.
Oh, you want me to tell that?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I believe if you look at life, there are kind of I love stories, because I learn by imagining myself in that. I transfer my brain into that story as a way to figure out a way for a pathway. So I do lots of stories, lots of analogies. Here's my analogy for wealth and parts of life. You're on an island. You're on an island. You have to leave. So you leave and you start going towards the other island. And you see, oh, that one over there is safe. Okay, so I'm going towards the island, and you're in the surf. You're in the ocean. There's all kinds of dangers in the ocean, and you're worried. So you get close. As you get close to the island, you see there's a reef and surf. And then you happen to notice that there's some other people trying to get out of the surf. And as soon as they get onto the beach, a bunch of dogs and wild animals and other people come in and try to attack them, and they run into the jungle. And well, in the jungle, there's other animals as well, and they run out of the beach, and everywhere they go, they're in danger. But hey, if I could just get to the mountain, if I can get through the waves, not get eaten by the sharks in the ocean, get through the waves, get across the beach, figure out a way to navigate into the jungle, I can climb up. And even though it's King Kong's island and Kong is up there, if I can find a way to get on the mountain and I can stay away from Kong, then I'll be okay. And so the analogy is, many people try to go through the surf and go, oh my God, I don't even want to risk it. And so all they do is get beat up by the surf over and over. They just get tumbleweeded. They just get washing machined in the surf. And if you've ever been in the ocean, you know what that's like. A waist-high surf will knock you down, spin you around, and spit you out, and think, ha ha ha. And yet you get and then you think, okay, I've exhausted all my energy to get there. And that takes one set of skills. And then you think, oh my God, I've got to run across the beach. It's a big, white, beautiful beach, and there's a jungle. You can see it, but it's 30, 40 yards wide. Now you have to have a different skill. You have to run. You have to run through the sand. You have to have enough endurance to run through the sand, and you have to not get caught or hurt by any of the other things that are attacking, because you're wide out in the open. Things flying, things whatever, and you want to, oh man, if I could just get in the jungle. And so you have to get a whole new set of skills to get off of the beach. So you have one set of skills to get out of the ocean. Second set of skills you have to learn in order to get across the beach. And then when you get into the jungle, in the jungle, but you know what? If you stand still, the ants start crawling up your feet. If you stand too still, the plants start to come around you. The other things are there, the animals, the tigers, the giant snakes, the things you hear, you don't even want to know what they are. And that takes a third set of skills to navigate through that. And when you finally get to the base of the mountain, is you survive because you've learned and you've elevated and elevated and elevated. Finally, you get to the thing. Now you have to climb a mountain. You've never climbed a mountain before. You got to have a whole nother set of skills to climb the mountain. But as soon as you get above the tree line, you realize it's worth it and I'm okay. Okay, so King Kong's here. Yeah, he may crash me, he may smash me, he may eat me. It's fine. But you know what? I'm okay. And here's the point. If you look off in the distance, you can see a giant wave coming. You can see the water receding away from the beach. And it's receding and showing all of the fish and showing all the coral. And you know, either you have to get across that fast and start climbing the mountain and just bulldoze your way through all that stuff, or you're going to get hit by the tidal wave. And so my question is, if you're not ahead of the curve right now, you are behind it. If you're behind the curve, you better get a surfboard and learn how to surf that tidal wave, because it's coming whether you like it or not. It's coming whether you want it or not. You can deny it all you want, and all that's going to happen is it's going to smash you. And so my advice is swim like hell and get on the beach. Deal with it. Figure out what you need to do next. Get across the beach into the jungle. Fine, deal with it. Figure out what to do next. Get onto the mountain as fast as you can, because the only way to survive the tidal wave is to get high enough on the mountain so it doesn't smash you. So that's my analogy for how to learn to go from being an employee to being a consultant to being a business owner to being a investor, and to go from being someone who lives by everybody else telling them what to do, to live by helping other people make decisions, to then deciding what other people should do in order for the benefit of all, to then helping people finance the people deciding on what everybody else should do. Those are the levels of wealth. Those are the levels of knowledge. And the analogy is mine, but the levels came from I think it's the Cash Flow Quadrant from Robert Kiyosaki, which is one of his books in the Rich Dad series. And I've just adapted it into that methodology. And there's so many analogies. So many people are in a sailboat looking at the ocean going, I'm cool, everything's fine. But yet they've got 400 bags tied behind their sailboat. So even if they wanted to move, they couldn't move. Even if they wanted to put up the sails and go somewhere, nope, they're just stuck there. And the tidal wave is going to hit them too. And so that's the whole concept, and the drive and passion, desire, and the fire inside me is because you, my brother, my sisters, my brother-in-law, my cousins, my nephews, my godchildren, my children, their significant others, and eventually, hopefully, everyone I know is going to be affected by AI. If you're not ahead of it, if you're not learning it, if you're not learning how it works, or getting the surfboard and learning how to surf it either away from danger or to the top of the mountain, it's just going to crush you. And that giant wave, you won't survive. And there will be people in the next 6 months to a year, maybe in the next 6 weeks, that AI is going to change or disrupt their industry, disrupt their livelihood, disrupt how they've thought about things in the past, to the point where they won't be able to continue making money the way they have in the past, and they will have to find a different way to be productive. And that is because the tidal wave of AI is starting to suck all of the water back away from the beach before it truly hits us and impacts our lives. So that's my analogy, and I shared that with John a couple days ago. And thanks for asking me. Hopefully, it was helpful.
Yeah, it feels like we're about to drop into the wave, because as soon as these products hit the market and disrupt, where a company doesn't have to hire a new employee, they get a $3,000 NVIDIA supercomputer with some agents running it, and they're probably going to need a consultant or someone to set the agents up. I'm sure the business owners more likely aren't going to do that. When it comes to enterprise-sized companies, it'll be interesting to see if they do that in-house or they go and find consultants or companies to solve those problems. What's your thoughts on that?
They're going to have to go to consultants, because people who have spent 20 years in a business know the business the way it's been run for 20 years. AI is changing all of that. And so they need somebody with the childlike method of looking at things differently to go, why do you have 25 people answering phones? What Sannon's already proven you don't need that. Why do you have a sales force of people going out and doing it? You don't need that. You can do that all virtually with these agents and tools, and you just need somebody to close and be the human that they talk to at the end of the chain, not every single step in the chain. You don't, like I said, I was listening to a middleware company talk about how they're using agentic AI to extract data from all of the different systems and create the interfaces automatically. Well, that's what I talked about I think it was last week, where all of these different job titles who do all these things manually in the enterprise space are going to have to be repurposed into using something else. Or instead of 5 of them, now they have one that uses an AI tool to do the same amount of work as 5 of them. And besides, doing AI work is so much easier than grinding through it manually. I don't know if you've ever looked at the output of, like a data schema, and just looking at the volume of tables and field after field, it just becomes mind-numbing. But AI can do it in a blink, and you can just say, give me this stuff or give me that stuff or whatever. And then if you amplify that to, I want to do outbound calling, like it was so awesome. Jessica was on yesterday, and 11 Labs and all of those ideas. If you take that idea and say, I want to outbound call, and I want to create an agent, a voice agent that reads the script with human emotion and some kind of context to it. How about this? Can the LLM figure out what the demographic is of the person they're calling and use the best type of voice to talk to that person, right? If you're calling somebody who's a business owner who's been in business for 50 years, he's 70 years old, do you really want hi, how are you? A little bubbly 21-year-old kind of perspective voice? Do you want a more mature female voice? Do you want a mature men's voice? Which one is most likely to resonate with that person? And so now you can have the script read by 15 different virtual agents or virtual voices, virtual personas that will resonate specifically with the person they're targeting to make that phone call on. And will that amplify their total amount of reach, the total amount of listens, less hangups, the time on call, and all the stuff that we track from a call center perspective? Will that happen? I mean, I'm just talking about like one step. One step is a human doesn't do it, the AI does it. Step 2, the AI does it better because they don't have to be Andy talking. It can be Andy's script, but it's Jessica's voice or John's voice or Harsh's voice. Or if we're calling internationally, it's John Carlos' voice who's speaking Spanish or speaking Italian to somebody else, right? All of those things are true and valid. And we have not yet solved the 3 or 4 or 5 step away problem. I always try to think 3 steps ahead. Right? I don't like to play checkers one piece. I like to play chess, 2 or 3 steps, multiple moves. Move the bishop here, move the knight here, boom, pawn, threat, attack, right? I'm attacking a space from multiple locations, not just brute force driving things through the wall. I'm strategically maneuvering that the best opportunity is to answer the questions we provide in the way that we provide them to give you the best value that you don't know you need yet. And it's an education action problem that we solve. So I'm going to educate you. This is important. And I'm going to give you action. Do this. Hey, if you think this is important, go right now, go open up Perplexity and ask it, what does it know about me? Put your own name in there and see what it says. And if it's wrong, correct it. Because right now you have a chance to correct it. You can correct Google. You can, in the future, it's going to go, nope, we've got 5,000 instances of you being this. That's who you are. But today, it's not like that. You can go make a change. You can say, nope, that's not true. I never did that. I never worked at that job. I didn't do that thing. I did this thing. Oh, okay, cool. Then you, with authority, overwrite the other stuff. I mean, things like this, 3, 4, 5 steps away is where I'm super excited. 1 step away is where we all are.
Yeah, and to that thing about what it thinks of you, I went down the rabbit hole with Grok 3 about how it actually pulls up when you ask it to search the internet. And, it does not look at Google's results at all. And it says said something very interesting. It says whether you're on Grok's good list or something to that effect. And so then the question is how do you become, a trusted authority in a subject by Grok? Now, and in with Google Analytics and the way that things worked before, you would have data that can show what's being pulled up for what query and the landing page and all this other stuff, and you can piece it together to kind of understand how, and their tools that show your domain authority based on the links that are attached to your site. If you have people linking to your site that have a edu or a .gov, that's going to give you a huge amount of authority. Now, with the LLMs are a little bit of a black box about what's going on, but it is going to be important for people to understand exactly how authority is determined. Now, are you going to have a benefit by being on X, and being on Spaces regularly? The one thing about Spaces is you can't download a space, which seems kind of strange, but you would at some point you should be able to download a space, and then that data is being analyzed and interpret our conversations by Grok and or by whatever means X uses. But you have an account that's connected to you and your voice and what you're saying and how people respond when you tweet or you reply, and all of these things are going to be new authority benchmarks. So if you have a book on a subject and all these other things. But yeah, this is going to be something that is going to be really, really put a lot of energy and money behind, because in the end, it's all about sales and money and revenue. And if you're on page two, they say, where's the best place to hide a dead body? That's page 2 of Google. So, where's the best place to hide a dead body? That's the search result that didn't show up when you ask Grok or ChatGPT a query.
Yeah, we haven't talked hardly at all about your use case you did with Claude 3.7. So why don't we do that? Or maybe Harsh has some ideas. We could take some hands, or we can get some speakers to ask. Sorry, I feel like you gave me the stump and I took it. So I really like to engage with other people instead of just blathering on and on. I mean, you can hear me anytime you want. Just reach out, ask.
Absolutely. So please, Harsh, if you'd like to add it, and yeah, I did something specifically with Claude yesterday. I was really blown away. I really was hoping to hear from anybody else who started to check it out. I did see some posts about one person where it showed that Claude kind of lost its mind. I'm sure everybody's had that situation where you go down, and I think it's because you push too many tokens, and then it starts giving crazy talk. But yeah, please, anybody who's worked with Claude in the past 24 hours and got the new update, I'd love to hear from you. That would be wonderful. And we got another request, and there we go. So, Harsh, how are you doing?
Hey John, hey Andy, I'm doing good. And how about you, John?
I'm doing well. It's a beautiful morning out here in the desert, and a good day, and I'm having a wonderful day.
Yeah, like about Cloud 3.7, I don't have a opinion right now because I have not tried it that much. Like, but I will definitely come up with something in next 1 or 2 days. Like for past 2 days, my health was not up to the mark, so that I was just resting, and I just woke up and came to your space. So there were few things Andy was saying, that from going from a normal person to an entrepreneur. According to me, in my experience, what it takes is only guts. If you have guts, like many people think about extra things, which actually in the first place doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you what kind of knowledge do you have, what kind of background do you have, if you have money or not. Because the thing is, business entrepreneurship, it's all about management. You have to manage. Once you have, like, a person had advised me when I registered my first company, that now you have registered a company, now you have a current account, and there is only thing in the life is management. There will be ups and downs. Like, while you are doing business, and suppose if you are dealing B2B, maybe sometimes you are getting a very high deal, and maybe sometimes you are not. Some months will be like with no income, and some months will be like very high. And that is a kind of uncertainty you sign up for when you do start doing business. And also, business is not for everyone. Some people are good with jobs, and I don't never said that jobs are bad. Jobs are good. Like, there was a time, even I, like in 2016 when I entered my college, I was just dreaming $500 at that time, $500 a month after 4 years, like in 2020. Like, I was expecting a job there. But the thing is, life turned out. And I observed that many people in this world, they are clouded. They are clouded with the information which is actually not necessary. The first thing is, if you have a clarity there, if you can sit with yourself, you can make yourself clear, you have an idea, and just little bit of guts to execute it, and just stick on it. Because once you will stick on it, you will find out that there are people in this world who are unemployed like you, and in the beginning they might be interested in working with you even for free, because they also know that you are creating something, so people come along. That's not a problem. People contribute. And then there are many things. You can raise funds from someone else, but even an investor is a person who is coming along. So as a founder, you also have to remember that except you, everyone is there just to help you, just to not there to, like, save you. Many founders are also getting into, like, save god complex, that somebody is gonna save them. But you are the founder, you have to save them. That's the thing. That's the kind of responsibility you sign up to. And yeah, like, Andy, the thing is, yes, there is a general opinion I have about LLMs, and I would like to just share that with today, that these LLMs, they have formed via the research paper called BERT. And BERT research paper is done by Google, originally designed to translate from one language to another language in a better way. So these LLM in the first place are not designed to think. These LLMs are designed to translate, and then it is we started like turn them into transformers, and we started decompressing data, like, inherently inside that heap. It's just compressed data of the whole internet, like, from wherever the source we got, we compressed it into that heap again and again, till we are getting better results. And now we are extracting information based on tokens from that. But the thing is that, any if you will talk with any researcher, any pioneer who have worked with them, and they are also familiar with other topics in AI, they are not very impressed with LLMs. None of them. Because LLM is still is very primary technology. There is, like, except transformer, there is another research paper called state space sequence models. And if you go to YouTube and type Mamba AI, you can find a lot of content on that. So those models are, like, from 1974, and they perform 4 times faster, and in training and also in inference, compared to transformers. So there are not just one architecture which is going to like save the world. There are many architectures which are behind the scene. People are working on that. Some people have plans to go public, some people don't. And it's totally okay. But the thing is, LLMs in the first place are not designed to think. These thinking, these reasoning, these are words. Like inherently, it is actually not thinking. The main thing is it's a imitation of like it's like LLM is not able to execute a certain task, but we are applying an agent to it. So it is also doing the same thing there, and it's something which is not very easy, like so not very easy to crack by normal people. But for a researcher, it's not impressive at all. So with time, there will be like other models which will submerge, which are able to, which will be you be able to execute this. But in here, we are not actually moving forward with the technology. We are actually moving backward with the technology. Because right now, what I see in the market, what is happening, that all these companies are bringing out all the old research which have been already done. Like when I mentioned a state a space sequence model. So now it is like they are like, okay, it runs 4 times faster than this. They are basically combining those technologies together to the current hardware, because at that point in history, the technology was there, the theory was there, the program was there, but the hardware to support it was not available. And so now that hardware became available to us. We found a way. So, and it's not something very, very new. Like CUDA exists. Like I have the first time I got introduced to this field was 2009. And at that time, I found a lot of people experimenting with AI and CUDA. And Nvidia was like one of the very first companies. That is why like they are so ahead of every company in terms of hardware right now, because they are working on this since 2007 2009. And these models are actually not designed to think. These models are designed to translate, and that is what they are in the core they are doing. Thinking is a very different process than translating. But yeah, I can like speak more on this, but let's hear others thoughts. Over to you, John.
Harsh. No, that what you say is so profound and important, I believe, because yeah, there's a lot of people who aren't aware that there's many other architectures of this, and the terms that are used are, if you drill down, they're just wrong. I mean, artificial intelligence, there is no intelligence in AI at all. It's pattern mimicry, and when there's some other things that I looked for. Yeah, lots of people aren't sticklers for the definition of terms and to really know what you're talking about in terms of defining what is or what you're saying. But I think it's super important. And Harsh, please respond.
Well, it's not like there is no thinking in AI. But the thing is, when it comes to these LLMs, there is not. It's it's like we are seeding, randomly seeding them. Like suppose there is like in Hugging Face, there are many picture like photo generation models. So, for example, Flux is one of the best, which is in the open source. If you try their open source model in the Hugging Face, they ask you for a prompt, they ask you for a seed, and they ask you for a resolution. So prompt you gave, seed you gave, and seed is nothing but a random number. So if you are, suppose if you are generating again and again there, then if you are not changing the seed each time in every generation, it will give you the same result. It will give you the same image if you are not changing the seed. So what these models do, that each time when you are actually applying a prompt into them, they randomize the seed on their own. And that is why each time we are having a different answer. But suppose if you are not randomizing that specific number, you are keeping that number same, and you, if you're giving the same prompt again and again, it will give you the same result. And that is how pseudo random number generators, that is how decompression models, compression and decompression model works. Inherently it's nothing but the whole internet is compressed inside a model in weights, nothing more than that. But when it comes to actual thinking, it's not like actual thinking, like classification and all those things doesn't exist. It's totally depends on the architecture. And AI, like people are just aware of predictive models right now, generative models, predictive models. But the thing is, there are terms like differential learning. People have not, like many people don't read about these things actually. There is a thing called, like people believe that in 1956, uh, the term AI, artificial intelligence, is coined. But the term is coined in that year. The work is from 18th century. We have lot of data. We have a lot of history in this field. Like if, for example, in World War II, and there is a movie upon that, The Imitation Game. It was on life of Alan Turing. So in that movie, the Hitler's army was using a machine, an encryption device called Enigma, to send the messages to their army. And then Alan Turing came up with the idea called BOMB, Bombay machine. And that machine worked on the predictive model and broke that encryption. Basically, with certain parameters, like it already knew the meaning of certain words, they feed it that into the machine that okay, these word means this, and they just allowed the machine to predict that which word is speaking what. And in that way, they won the war, because now their messages, whatever they were exchanging between the army, those messages are not secret anymore. So one of the first use case of AI is like breaking encryption. Natural language processing and all these things like comes after that. So the real power of AI have, like the industry have never seen, because the data, the hardware, everything, those resources, in my point of view, what I have observed is made redundant purposefully. It's like you can create a light bulb which can stand for like next 20 years, but you are making a light bulb which just stands for like next 3 or 4 months, and after that you have to buy again, so that people can sell you those things more and more. And the same thing goes with industry, tech industry. And I'm not just talking about AI, even with in programming, people go behind job, most of the people. And when I said initially that people need guts to actually achieve anything in their life, is because many people don't go and study this thing in core. Many people don't invest their time in it, because they don't have the, they feel that they are in a hurry, they have to get a job, and they have to do this and that and blah blah blah, etc. Many things, like if you will see them, they are all the time in the fear, because that fear is made constant. The thing is like, y- uh, many people go for learning libraries, but those libraries, those languages, like so many programming languages right there out there in the market by different companies, and those languages are made right now so that people, those companies can have a certain amount of power over that specific industry. It's not just there for problem solving. If the same thing which goes with library, once you limit your mind to a library, that okay, this is, I learned this thing and this is doing everything for me, then that limitation is keeping you inside a box which is not created by you. So learning those libraries, learning those functions are very useful because they can speed up your time, but learning the base of it can give you lot many options. Because once you understand the rules, once you can explain the rules, you can also break the rules. Over to you, John.
Very, very, very good information, and you bring so much to the room, Harsh. I really, really, really appreciate it. Hope you're feeling better. You got to drink lots of fluids and rest. So don't push yourself too hard. Dylan or Andy or Mr. E or Lloyd or Paul Fire, we haven't heard from you before. Does anybody like to add to the conversation?
I love the whole Alan Turing machine, help build the Enigma machine, which is what Harsh was talking about. There's a bunch of movies about it, a bunch of famous books, and they're all remarkable because solving the problem was very challenging. He's right. LLMs don't think; they just mimic. But remember, this is my tenet. I'm not sure if everyone else believes this, but my thought is the chatbots. The reason they're so effective is because they have natural language processing, so we can speak to it English the way we normally communicate. And the second thing is, instead of giving us a list of stuff to go find, which is super helpful compared to nothing, it actually just gives you the answer. And then you can ask it, can you refine the answer with this grade level or this grade level or that? And it has the capability to do that so that you can continue to work through all of these things. And it's a remarkable thing. So yeah, absolutely, Harsh. By the way, Harsh, I hope you feel better. I got all of, by the way, in the back channel, I'm hearing from other people and saying, how did you get all this stuff to live stream? Kate had a space literally, just Kate Bly had a space literally an hour before this, and she was doing it. And I happened to just see the live stream. I clicked on it and I saw that it was just a browser of the space. And I thought, oh God, I want to do that. So I literally joined her space and asked, how did you do it? She told me how she did it. And then I copied her. So if you want to be successful, find someone who's doing what you did. Andy watched Kate. Kate told me what to do because Andy asked her. And then I just did exactly what she did. And then now here we are. And so that's all it is I totally copied and ripped off everything that Kate did, which is giving you open season. Please take everything we say and rip it off and use it yourself.
Andy, just quickly, I would like to include, like, I'm a fan of Alan Turing. It's not just that movie I'm aware of, but there are a lot of things I have read about him. And like Andy and John, you already know about Eden. You already know about the compression technology I'm working on.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
let me give you this. In their last days, Alan Turing was working on a model called Christopher machine, and it was his attempt to build a thinking machine. Although he was not able to complete it because now after that he got arrested for like homosexuality and got treated for it and eventually died because of that treatment. But that Christopher paper is like one of the most interesting paper in the history I have ever read. And Eden, when I initially attempted to build Eden, like there were other inspiration, but there is a very huge part of that machine I have used, like I have simulated. And like in a way it is like hybrid of like the compression technology I am working on and the Christopher model. And the compression is doing nothing but making it faster. That's it.
Yeah, by the way, Harsh, when you're ready to let that out to the world, please let me know. I will be the first one to give you a recommendation to demo it, to show people and talk to people about how because it's really impressive what I saw. So I would love to be on your team to help promote that for you, because it really is a remarkable thing. I just got a couple of minutes. I will have to drop off here in just a minute. I've got a couple of other things I have to do at 1 o'clock, but um, just here, little housekeeping. Make sure you join the Startup Circle. Follow John. Follow me. Look at our profiles, join the newsletters, connect with our communities. We've got lots of things going on. Please follow the AI Biz Hour account and turn on the alerts. We're going to use that every time we go live, so that you can turn on alerts for John and I every time we go live, or we're talking, or we're in spaces, because we come together at this time of the day, and then the rest of the time we're doing our own cool, awesome things. And so make sure you follow. And if you could, follow everybody in the space. Turn on alerts, reach out, DM, communicate with everyone, make those connections. Those connections are okay. Because Harsh helped me get the first step of getting the live streaming set up, I was ready to hear what Kate said, so she could just put in that one little piece that I was missing. And now we're able to live stream all these spaces daily in a very short amount of time. But it's all because Harsh reached out to me when John and I were doing a test, and he literally just joined our live stream and helped solve, the first half of the problem, and then Kate helped solve the other part. So I'm very grateful to you. Thank you, Harsh, and Lloyd, and Dylan, and everyone else who's a listener. Haven't met you, Paul, but look forward to hearing you later. I'll be listening to the live stream later. But anyway, follow all of that. Make sure you copy things. Connect with everybody. And with that, you guys have a great day, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Thank you, Andy.
Thank you, Andy. Lloyd, how are you doing?
I'm great. I'm great. Can you hear me?
Yep, can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, cool. I just wanted to so we as Harsh had mentioned, or alluded to a certain degree, you know, artificial intelligence or AI is kind of used in general or kind of generalized, but it's very important to understand that there are many different kinds, I would say, for lack of a better word, of artificial intelligence. Of course, there's machine learning, there's deep learning. In these situations where we're dealing with large language models, I know that it's kind of been a topic of debate on whether or not there is actual intelligence. There are those who side who are on the side of it, like where Harsh said it isn't, and there are those who say that it is, because it's kind of like what they say is like a glorified predictive text type of situation. But there are those who are argue like the ability to predict, um, what words would come next, because of how complex language is, especially when you look at English language and even several others, that it does require a certain level of intelligence to be able to predict what words are going to come next. Um, consistently. And so, depending on how high you may regard it, um, I also kind of side on the fact of of it being intelligence. Now, is it the highest level? No, but I think it's a certain level of intelligence, to be able to produce the results that's being done, whether it's being mimicked or not. Like even the ability to mimic intelligence, like how hard it is to mimic something, and to mimic intelligence without being intelligent. It was really hard. And so I'm not saying that it's the highest level, like most when you look at uh, some of the other implementations, for example, with Elon Musk and his companies, like, what's being done when you look at, Tesla and the ability to, drive autonomously. That's a different kind of artificial intelligence that's being used here, when it comes to these language models, right? And then even like there's also a great deal of machine learning capability that's been part of iPhones and many of the other devices that Apple produces that when they utilize their system on a chip. And so I think it's just very important that we understand what artificial intelligence is and also the different ways in which it's being implemented. So yeah, depending on how you view artificial intelligence, large language models may not be AI, but I believe that it is. but I understand. Is the room still working?
That's
Weird.
what
I
I was
can hear
wondering.
John.
John, I just want to jump in. Earlier, you made the comment about recording spaces. It's not hard. You can have your own desktop Python app that you can run in your IDE, and all you have to do is put your room ID in, and pretty much it will gather it for you and save it to a recordable file. And it's easy to have it translated or transcribed and that kind of thing. I've done that. So that's not a difficult thing. And I can, share that with you, just give me your GitHub. On Harsh, I agree with a lot of things that he's been talking about, and also Lloyd. LLMs are just, fundamentally matching type things. But there's the one thing Harsh has kind of elaborated more in the academic theoretical realm and talked about a lot of things, but I didn't ever hear specifics about types of AIs, because you have a multitude of different, he's talking about certain little models, but like, you've got tree of thought, you've got, different graph-based thinking, you've got those type of formats that they're using or methods. And I'm curious if he's worked with specific ones, because to me, I'm a practical guy. I've used the Grok, the new version. I like it. It seems to be a lot more flexible. I have little tests that I give all of them, to answer certain questions and how they answer them. I use a little program called Chorus that I can do 5 or 6 AIs and ask a question and see all the different answers. Training right now is something I'm digesting, is how to train with specific data, making that data clean so that you can get repetitive or good analytical results from it. Which is, it's a battle, but it's a fun exercise. And then beyond that, it's I like to tinker and understand, kind of like what John was saying, or Andy just left. I find that the practical seeing it and how those components go together is the way that I digest and learn. The theoretical part, I have to, I'll think about it, but I'd rather put my hands on it and tear it up. Like I've got a conscious AI model that a gentleman gave to me that I've massaged a little bit, and I'm now trying to figure out how to do some training with it. And it's like, is this something that is actual pliable? But it's one of those exercises. So the conversation's good. I'm enjoying it, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak.
Paul, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about your background and how long you've been coding? What your your vocation's been, or
Sure.
just so we can.
Yeah, my background. I was a real world business owner. Provided solutions and different data software. Did engineering and design work for industrial systems, from ground all the way up to building process inside. I've done a lot of different, just problem solving. I got a problem, put people together to help solve the problems, or I had experience enough to be able to solve it. Created a business, and then pretty much decided that I don't want the rat race as much, toned down the number of clients I had, moved to the woods. Decided 3 years ago to go into understand what Web3 was. I was asked by someone to do that. And I ate, drank, digested. And in the beginning of that adventure, I ran across the AI stuff. So I decided to eat, drink, sleep it. I taught myself Python. I taught myself Rust. I've taught myself several other things that to understand them. And then with the AIs, it's really accelerated the ability to learn quickly and understand things. Beyond that, it's just my motto in my business was bringing, ideas to reality, and I'm more the hands-on, get in the middle of the fight kind of guy. So
That's awesome. Yeah, the autodactism, being able to throw yourself into something, people that are like that now with AI, it is amazing in terms like, yeah, I've been telling Grok to explain to like a 9-year-old the subtle nuances of computer science, and pretty heady stuff, but in a way that's very easy for me to grasp in terms of the concept.
I ask it why. One of the questions I ask is, I go into it, it says, okay, take the 17th and 18th century cultural values and norms and compare it to the 19th century and the 20th and 21st century cultural forms, and explain why those things occurred. And it's interesting to see what kind of results you get from that. So, I mean, and then there are other exercises, like I have a specific group that I asked to give an oath, and it gave something close to the oath. And like OpenAI, you ask it and it preaches to me about that's a terrible group and you shouldn't be asking those kind of questions. So it's kind of like, trying to get emphasis of the bias built into it. And, there's a lot of different ways of looking at it and understanding each one's characteristics. And that's kind of get a flavor, because each one has that human interaction, which has altered it and has that basis of training, which is what I'm learning now about training, how much influence you have and how much the way you affect things. And so, it's just, it's a fun game, and it's a big puzzle, and I like to break things, and I break things sometimes intentionally, sometimes unintentionally, and then I have to figure out how to get out of the hole. So
yeah, and I think breaking things and then deconstructing them is always a good interesting thing. I create a little script that would ask the AI models to use an entity, to train based on an entity. And I don't know how to test it. I don't know if you have any ideas on how to start testing whether or not a model is responding in a way that you're asking it to respond, or to use a data set as training material. I think that'd be real interesting.
That would be harsh. And Mr. E, that's one of the things I'm digging into right now. So, I didn't plan on getting into any of this until mid-year, because I've kind of got I do other things. And but this exercise of training and understanding that, I'm trying to get myself close to some people who do it, that kind of thing, so that I get an accelerated path. The AI helps a little bit, but there's still, just show me, give me into the door, Okay, Mr. E's got his hand up. I'll be quiet.
Mr. E, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Do you mind if I throw a post up in the nest just to speak to it?
Go for it. Go for it. It's your house as well.
All right. Well, I'll check on those things first. So I just popped a web link up in the nest, just because it seems that it's hard to describe, but I happen to have a domain of just, available, and this idea, the first night we were talking about 3.7. So the first afternoon that came out, I thought, oh, Grok's out. This is it. Let me do a little comparison. And so I started, using exactly the same prompt, feeding it into each model these challenges to do a single page demo. I think that this may bias like the capabilities of the Sonnet models, because I have the crack system prompt, so I knew that they could go out to a specific CDNs to get JavaScript and other stuff. Now, every model received the same input. Here are web links to external style sheets and external JavaScript libraries that you can incorporate in your code. Anyway, so that website that I just put up there is just a published demo of these. Like it's all of the challenges. And it's been a challenge, right? Like, so the whole idea to get them to do it. So if anybody wants to go to cognoscripted.com, what I can say is everything you look at, the whole website, I haven't written one line of code. I'm specifically doing this voice only, hands off. Now, granted, I'm pushing the mouse, copying, typing to put the prompt in and copy paste and things like that, right? But essentially, I did no coding. I recognized things in the code that I wanted to change. I understood the code, but I had to have an intelligent dialogue with each of them. But I didn't write a line of code to generate everything you would see on the site. So if you enter so I tried just as we were talking. I went to the model. I said, here's the welcome page and the landing. We want to give a fast route to the final dessert challenge for Sonnet 3.7. So you'll actually see that on the home featured models, that this view featured submission. Don't click on that route, because if you go there, it doesn't wrapper the page. You'll have to use your back button. If you go in through enter the challenge, what this does is this gives an index landing page of the different challenges. So the first thing I did is I said, write a story about AI growth and use some of these tools like chart and animation effect. If you view the challenge there, you can see the Claude Sonnet 3.7 inside that challenge one. And it's really, it did a pretty nice card as just like the one shot. At this point, I was like, oh, that's pretty neat, right? What it was doing. It did well on the others, like the animated SVG. The Sonnet really did a nice job with that animation. On every single one of them, I think it was super nice. The interactive 3D viewer, you can move it with your mouse, all of that stuff. The one that's, I think, interesting is if you go back to that challenge page and you see the challenge 6, the final dessert. I only did this with the Sonnet 3.7. So now what I did is I took, so they did 4 challenges, each with a specific input prompt, and I'll put these prompts up there to say this is the challenge that was given, here's the artifact that was returned. And I won't do it, I'll ask them to build that. I already got it, I just haven't spoke it into the page. So the thing, and they've also got a rating system so that people and they can rate each other, the elements. And so then the score will be objective. There's a whole rating system. Here was the prompt you were given to what you were supposed to deliver. Here's what was delivered. What's your rating? And it could be a human or an AI rating it. And so there's a whole backend rating system that was developed that I just asked for. And so there's a feedback loop that'll go into a rating card that would add to this. So anyway, what I did, the key thing is on that final dessert, they gave the 4 prompts, and then I said, now I'd like for your master dish, take your 4 submissions and envision one master dish that demos like a single page with everything, right? So that was challenge 5, was the amalgamation. What I did is I took the challenge 5 amalgamation result of that page that worked. So you could look at the view challenge 5 and you could look at what Sonnet produced, which was damn nice. Except for the hero image sucks. It's just white with explore. So it failed on that. But it had a nice thing, visit Anthropic and all of this on the bottom. Okay, so what I did is I took that output, I went over to the deep research that we've been talking about, John, on OpenAI. I gave that input and I said, do the deep research and give us all the facts you can find, all the companies, all the GPS coordinates, all of the data that we need for this structure. It went on for 10 minutes, came back with this whole report. I directly took that report out, went back to Sonnet 3.7. I said, here's the final report of data. Now use this to enrich your master dish for the final dessert. That was the prompt, right? So copy paste with a little liner. And so that final thing is what it produced with that, which the amazing thing with Sonnet is it was a 5-part prompt. It's almost 4,000 lines long. And all of these ran first shot, except for I think two of the challenges with Sonnet 3.5. And it was a simple matter of click to fix it in the tool. And I considered that successful. I didn't ding it to say it failed. I clicked it and took that as the output. That's it. It was just playing, but this is this idea, John. 12 hours later, after you're playing, you're like, "Hey, let's share this. Hey, let's build this. Hey, let's." And then so I've got another one that's got the whole tooling in the back end with an implementation plan for the front and back end. Because this is really just a facade. It's a fancy Figma, right?
This is so exciting, Mr. E. You have no idea. Well, I'm sure you have an idea, but that you didn't, it was all voice activated, and then you just cut and paste. And yeah, this Sonnet thing is really incredible that you did this. This is very inspirational, and the idea that we all can come up with, Vladimir has the utility score, which I think is going to be very important, and everybody has their own interests or focus. And I just this is a great contribution for everybody. I'm going to be using this on a regular basis to just kind of look. And so, are these tests going to be updated on a daily, or do they automatically get updated? Or
No, John, I just did it for fun because I was talking to people about it. I'm like, I gotta just be able to show you. So it was like the easiest way was like, let me just post it to show it, right? So I'm not gonna go. This isn't my gig. It was for fun, right? Like, but I did use this for a gig, right? So now I have specific client targets. I took this final dessert dish with that full-blown 4,000 lines. I have now spawned 12 of those or 10 of those for other industries that I target with customers. So, I mean, you wouldn't believe I got a instantiation like that with, digital drug delivery and therapeutics, and also the pinball industry for games. You'd be surprised, but I'm racking them up that I've now got this exact like structure, timeline, presentation, and everything else. I'm spawning them.
speed is a real factor. I'm getting the vibe that you to implement and then do this and then get it out there in front of people, because things are moving so fast. And if you're known for consistently doing that, I think it's going to be a huge advantage. And so to find your niche and power and charge, it's really wonderful. It's really neat.
Yeah, I've got another comment on it, but I see Alas has his hand up, so I'll wait a bit, or maybe he's got a follow up.
Alas, how are you?
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you so much, John and Andy, for the space, and everyone, all the other speakers, Mr. E, Lloyd, Dylan, Paul, what's up, Harsh, and of course, all the listeners down below and everyone listening in the future. There's some really interesting stuff. I think it was Mr. E was just talking about. I wanted to get I didn't catch the site, the .com. That you were talking about.
If you just look right up in the nest, I made it easy. That's why I asked John if I could post up there.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I didn't. I've got I just turned on the what do you call it, transcript thing on. I don't know if they put it back in. I don't think on Spaces, but just made the connection in my mind. Seen somebody else had a screenshot, and I was like, oh yeah, my phone can just do a live transcript while I'm talking, or while I'm listening. See, I had something written down. I was thinking of Paul and Frederick there, and listened to him, spoke with him on a number of spaces in the past. And I think one thing I'd overheard him say was, he's a good old boy down in the South, but but he obviously knows stuff when it comes to coding and figuring stuff out. But I think Paul, you'd said something about that you're not. I can't remember what the exact words were, a coder or programmer or developer, but was it creator or something along those lines? Do you know?
Yeah, I look at it more as doing that because I'm not necessarily specialized in coding. It's kind of like Mr. E. He doing the things we're creators. Like you said, there's no very limited code, but he can still run. It's kind of like reading an Italian paper. You can understand some of the words because some of them are actually English, so you can get the gist of the conversation most of the time. So it's kind of like I look at it that way because it's not specialized in one area. Because I've had to wear lots of hats, and every time somebody gave me a problem, it was kind of like creating a solution or an understanding. So that's how I look at it.
Thank you so much. So if I could just briefly, I wrote something down I wanted to read while I had my hand up there. I am what I am. If I wasn't, why would I say I am? I am a child of God. I was put here on this earth for a purpose, to create something beautiful. These AI tools make things possible for me that only God could do before, or me with God's assistance, and if/when I had faith. All things are possible for me. What will I do with this power? What hath God wrought?
Yep. That's, we're all going to find a lot of interesting things about ourselves and each other as we move forward with this. And people that are creative are going to, I think, have a big advantage. If you're curious and you put the time in, there's going to be a lot of opportunities. Lloyd, how are you doing again?
I'm good. I say this all the time. Of like all the kings of old, I don't care which one you go to, would probably give up everything they have to have that access to the technology that that we can possess a lot of times for free. When you look at, the way in which we're able to go to any part of the world, the fact that we can talk to people who are all over the world in real time, the fact that we can access all the knowledge of the universe in real time. Now we can simply ask a question and get an answer. Not only can we ask, we can give a command and get a result. You know, like these are things that wasn't even like if someone would thought about it, they would have thought it was not even possible, and now we're making all these things possible. And to a certain degree, like you are able to, know, pretty much make whatever idea you have to speak and get and have it set in motion in a way that we never could before. And it's a great time. Also, to touch on thing as far as people talking about ways to record a room, there is another hack for people who have Macs. There's a company called Rogue Amoeba. It's spelled just the way it sounds. You know how to spell rogue? If you know how to spell amoeba, which is, one of those cellular structures we got taught about back in elementary school. They make a suite of audio suite for Mac that allow you to have very precise control over all the audio on your device. And using it, you can record what you want. You can interject what you want. If you want to do anything that you want to do audio wise, you can utilize that suite of tools to get that result. So that's one option. For Windows users, I don't know what the equivalent is. I'm just telling you, if you have a Mac, that's one of the best ways to do it. You don't have to buy no hardware like that. Everything just stays digital on your machine. And obviously, the better machine you have, the better result you'll get.
Sorry, what was the Mac tool that you mentioned for the audio control?
It's called Rogue Amoeba, and that's the name of the company. So you go to rogueamoeba.com. The ones I use one called Sound Source. Sound Source is the one I use the most. It kind of works just like kind of allows you to control every app and what audio driver is outputting to and what's going to be the mic. Then there's another thing called Loopback. Loopback pretty much lets you create custom audio drivers on your machine, and based on whatever apps you want to go to it, or and whatever devices you wanted to output to, you have a very fine granular control over that. There's also another app called Audio Hijack. Audio Hijack is kind of like if you use what's the name of that? Those automation tools like Make. It's kind of like Make for audio. So you can just pretty much have, you got this visual interface. You can choose where the audio goes from here to this tool, then it goes to this tool. We can filter it out. You can do all these different things with Audio Hijack. And there's other tools too. There's ones that you can just record stuff. There's ones you can convert audio files. Like it's an entire suite, and the last I checked was like $200 or something like that. It may be more or less. I don't know, but it's a really great tool. I've been using it for years since before. Macs. Before we started having Apple Silicon Macs, and so they converted over, and it's been a great experience. But yeah, I recommend it because I use it
Hey
myself.
Lloyd, have you tried Black Hole? It's an open source.
I have not.
Yeah, that's the one I
Um,
use because you can do real similar things with that on the Mac. Capture live audio feeds and things like that. So
well, here's my question. Like, when there's like a major like update and stuff like that, how when it comes to solutions that can, like a lot of times Apple is updating the drivers, or not the drivers, but updating how it handles audio. And because there's been a few issues with
yeah,
that
they break things.
in the past.
Make
Yeah.
sure you're using
And so,
environments so that you have dependency control. Keep going.
yeah. Well, so basically the tool that I'm recommending to people is for those who are not like Paul and everybody, like it makes it significantly easier to do it. Now, if you want to use open source and what I'm saying, you want to really get your hands dirty and have that fine tune control, definitely use what's called Black Hole. I think is what Paul said. But if you're somebody who, maybe you're not that confident or you worry about messing up your machine or something like that, because by this being a paid program, you do have you do get support with it, right? If something goes wrong, they do give you regular updates. Every single time there's a major update with Mac, they come out with an update for it. So it just depends on what road you want to travel. I don't think there's any wrong answer here. I'm glad that he mentioned black holes for those who do want to, get their hands dirty, and just like the people who like to run their own LLMs right there on machines and stuff. There are people who want to do that, and there's people who just want to use them, right? And so either way is cool. But I think Harsh
Yeah,
wants to talk.
just a comment though on the
Yeah,
Twitter Space downloader. If anyone is going to try that Python package, change last year is you are required to pass a legitimate cookie file, and so you need to be logged into X. You need to save your cookies in Netscape format using a plugin like Edit This Cookie, which is the quick way to do it, or knowing how to put a script into the console to extract it, or where to copy it out of the cache storage in your terminal. So
Yeah, cache
you need
storage
a
is where you
Netscape.
grab it. Yeah.
Yeah, either grab it from there, but
Andy.
the easiest is a Netscape formatted cookie file that you download, and then you just pass that along with the Space ID when you do the download, and it will authenticate you and pull it.
Okay, Andy and
Yes,
John.
yes, Harsh.
You guys are using Talk Studio to live stream the space. In Talk Studio, there is a feature when you can both stream and record it on the cloud. If you have that recording on, what you can do, you can go to the account setting. There there is a section of all the recorded spaces or meetings or whatever you had is there. From there, you can just download the audio, not the video. Like there is an
Can
option
you say
to,
that one more time, Harsh?
like when you go to live stream on Talk Studio, which you are using right now. So there is an option that if you want to just stream or you want to record and stream, and once you like turn on that record button, it will always record all your streams in the cloud. So when you will go to your account settings, in account settings, there is a section of all the streams and all the recordings there are available. So you can just, there is an option to just download audio
Yep. I,
beside every
yeah, I
recording.
know where that is. And thank you. That's excellent. Um, thank you for
Which
that.
studio package are you using? Not OBS, right? Or something different?
It's Harsh turned me on to it. It's, what is it? TalkStream or?
Cool.
Talk Studio.
Cool. And thanks for that. I appreciate just to know which is which, and when I hear capabilities of what it can do. Paul, it's great to hear your voice. And so the other thing, John, I wanted to say with the application about that the demo is this is a learning that's in general, and so I used this opportunity. What I did is I posted a follow-up reply. So the context for what I'm going to speak about now is the follow-up reply that has the image screenshot that I captured of the Claude window. That what I did is I took one of these activities I was working on, and I've been noticing with these Replit or any of these models, they put out a solution that is often suboptimal, or it can use a lot of GPU or CPU resources. So things like the background nodes, it's just constantly refreshing it. I learned that while I was doing games and things with the kids. It's terrible. They just refresh everything, every frame on the whole canvas, and so it's just an absolute resource in memory hog. If you build it like that and go deploy it, it's not very good. I can quickly pick out sites that people have out there that were made with AI because of this type of an issue. So I actually have been taking that now and just taking the code that was generated and say, for these elements, let's go through and characterize the CPU, the GPU, how we can optimize it, right? And so then now you're doing a refactoring of the code for optimizing it with the client browser so that you're more respectful of those visiting your site. And again, this is all 100% with voice. I just copy the section, describe what I want, and I told Claude 3.7, back to the topic, do this refactoring of the current version 0.10 and the 0.20 new one with this optimization, and give it to me in an artifact that I can see what you suggest with the two different versions of code side by side. So that screenshot you're seeing is now its dashboard of here's your current code, here's the refactored code, flip back and forth, and here's all your performance measures in the footer and everything else, right? So you're getting into this whole web performance, backend page load optimization, comparison, benchmarking, again, just by voice, right? And then this is where, if people are curious, sometimes you can learn this and extend it, maybe even do some innovation. So my curiosity was, what can web browsers today sense about my machine? I know they can see what browser you're using, the CPU, what your OS is, but what about my battery state? Am I plugged in or am I not plugged in? What's my current usage of my memory and GPU? If I went to my process tab and took a look at my system performance. And so based on all these parameters, the idea was, how could you have a page that when it goes and the user goes to use it, you can sense their environment and balance the UI and the user experience with these fancy widgets and animations with being respectful so that it fits with whatever their environment and compute resources are. So that was this back end thing of a dynamically displaying and adapting parameters such as refresh rate that make it look good, but not so good. It cripples you to see it. And then it's like, isn't that what we've hated about Adobe Flash? Anyway, I'm going to keep listening. I got a lot to do today. This was my play. So just thought I'd pop in, especially given 3.7. I'm super excited about it without reservation. I've been recommending it to people to just go sign up. One of my partners that I work with was like, "Are you using this? This is what you." And I said, yeah. He's like, hold on. And right there on the phone, he went and did a year pro subscription. He's like, I want to follow you. Send me your artifacts. Anyway, so no reservations about Anthropic with this particular tool. It's 3.7 is substantively better than 3.5, and I've been using 3.5 a lot in creative ways. And I haven't given it the digital drugs yet, so no mushrooms, no LSD or any cannabinoids for the 3.7 yet. But maybe if I get my work done by tonight or tomorrow, I can start running the digital X analogs through it.
I actually have seen the prompts of where you say that you're going to give the LLM some psychedelics and how that reacts. You gave us so much, Mr. E, the idea of or the problem that you're trying to solve with browsers and customizing what's being seen based on the GPU and the Cognoscripta. And yeah, I'm going to go and listen to this later. There's a lot of gems here, so thank you, Mr. E. I can't thank you enough for what you added here today. It's super awesome.
John?
Yes.
If there are any follow-ups, I'll take them. Otherwise, I'll step down. I see Dylan has his hand.
If there's any follow-ups to I mean, I think we need to do a so I don't know what your schedule is like, but sometime I'd love to have you as a guest, so we can go into deep dive.
Yeah, I know. Maybe there's another request on this, and my passion these days has been around. Appreciate the deference, Dylan. Has been around especially AI interaction with children. So the guidelines, how it can be optimized. I think I told you in the space that listening to the voice thing and Jessica the other day, I was like, what about special voices that are optimized for the kids? We often don't think about that enough. So that's going to be some of my priority. But anyway, I'm going to step down. I'm pretty busy. I just meant if there were quick follow-ups to these tools.
Yeah, and thank you. And I think that it'll take a lot of thought and careful, thoughtful development towards that, because vulnerable people need children, need stuff that will help them, as well as that they can, trust is a big thing. We're going to have, I mean, there's a generation on cell phones, and now there's a generation with AI. And, I always like to, when I work with AI, say this is a collaboration. And I think that builds great results. So Harsh and then Dylan. And if anybody has a follow-up question for Mr. E, please state that, or we'll go with Harsh.
No, just a short thing. You should check your message once, John, and let's move to next speaker.
Excellent. All right. And Dylan, here. Okay. Oh, wow. Oh, yes, I got that. Thank you, Harsh. I appreciate that. And Dylan, what would you like to add?
Hey. So real quick, I want to say thanks for the space. Been awesome hearing you guys talk. And I will say I've been using Claude 3.5 for however long it's been out. It's been awesome. And while everyone's rejoicing about 3.7, it's been like just destroying my project. So I would caution a little bit for those jumping out to use it. If you're already really deep into a project that is, fairly complicated with lots of pages and files and everything, maybe make sure you have multiple backups. Don't just jump right into using 3.7, because I noticed this one to be really really handsy. Like, it wants to do a lot of stuff. But if I'm just making minute tweaks and trying to adjust certain things or the flow, certain stuff like that, it wants to do more than I'm asking it. So just a little bit of warning there. I've had to just sort of go back to 3.5 just in these phases. But then I try to...
It's a good point you make here, Dylan. I think it's a really good point. You can feel the difference in the power it wants to just go. That's always been a battle, to kind of keep them at pace, not to get too far ahead when they've given you the 6 steps and you're like, let's debug step number 1. So good points. So I'm gonna step down. great points you made.
Great, thanks. Yeah, you can get stuck. Like if you're just building and you're just starting something, you have an idea, then I think it's awesome, right? It's kind of like a wildfire and it just goes and it builds really quick and it's awesome. But then once you start like trying to change small things and fine tune it and tweak it and make it how you really want it, that's where sometimes these newer models, when they release them, can actually do more harm than good. Oftentimes you'll find like they fixed the problem you wanted only to create 2 more problems. Right, so you can get kind of stuck in a never-ending loop. So that's just a caution. If you're already deep into a project, sure, use it. Just make sure you have backups, save often, and just you have to be pretty forceful. It seems like with 3.7, like no, please only do this one specific thing I'm asking. Do not alter functionality. Do not, etc. You got to give it a lot of structure. I would say.
I've came up with this pause prompt where basically I said pause, because when you're thinking, often sometimes if you go for a walk or something, or you get a little distance, ideas come up. But the idea was to regroup and make sure we stay on point. Have you or anyone figured out a prompt to get it to? I mean, often I'll do at this period, I just need yes or no answers. I don't need 5 steps when I'm only going to confirm that one is accurate, especially when coding, and it's yeah, you can be in this crazy loop. And I've been a minimal coder most of my life, but now that I'm kind of deep diving into it, it seems that there's a huge I mean, you learn so much so fast by using this. It's really amazing. And so what are your experiences, Dylan?
Yeah, so I would say first off, so I use Cursor for the majority of things, and I have like in Cursor you can give it like a system prompt. So I have a system prompt in there essentially set up to like guide Cursor, like don't be overly explanatory, don't give me a bunch of stuff I don't need, like basically the rules to follow so that it acts more like a developer and less like getting real chatty after everything it does or whatever. So I'd say that's really helpful. I can send you that if you like. That really helps. And then I would say, depending on what you're working on, like for instance, right now I'm working on an iOS app, and it seems to be my knowledge that LLMs need a little more help in regards to like the Swift coding language. So I found someone online gave a fantastic rules to follow for coding a Swift app. And so I made a custom rules file in Cursor, and I just have that in the project because I'm working on an iOS app. And occasionally, if I notice it's making problems, I'll say, hey, go reference the rules file of how things should be structured or how they should be done in Swift. And it's really helpful. Without that, it's like I was getting so many more problems. So I would say things like that are really helpful. Like you just give it the constraints and the context for what you're doing. And another thing that I always do when I start getting into like fine tuning things or really making small changes is I will give it the task, and then I'll say only focus on this task, and also do not break any current functionality. And that seems to really help because sometimes it will fix what you want it to fix and then break something else. So by telling it not to, it seems to do pretty well.
Yeah, I'm going to take that right now. Do not corrupt or break any functionality. That's key. Now, what's your background? Have you been coding for a long time? So I've been 15 years. I've been doing HTML, website stuff, whatever. But I've been using Visual Studio Code. I know people who have been coders for a long time that use Cursor. What's the benefits or the difference? I'm just curious.
Sure. So no, I'm not a coder at all. I just I do filmmaking and video production and storytelling. But the tools allowed for coding and to be able to create things, and so I just jumped on it. I jumped into Cursor because first I was in Visual Studio Code, heard about Cursor, saw what people were doing with it, and I was like, oh, cool. It's just got Claude plugged into it. That's awesome. So I started working with it, and it was, it was definitely kind of hard at first because I didn't know anything about anything in regards to coding. But I would say now it's been like 6 months, and now I'm able to like build, like a React app or web app and stuff like that really quickly. Basic, iPhone apps pretty quickly. Like you start realizing like you don't necessarily have to know how to code, but it's good to know the structure and formation of like what a dev would do, like how the processes are, like maybe like just like cooking a recipe. Maybe you don't need to know all the ingredients, but you need to know, like, if you're baking, like you put your dry in with your dry and your wet in with your wet, or whatever, right? Like there's just certain rules. So kind of learning that stuff definitely helped. But
I mean, it opens so many possibilities, and Next.js I find really exciting in terms of kind of replacing WordPress for websites and then adding some functionality to it. I don't know if you have any experience with that, but I can geek out on this. I don't know if anybody else cares about this stuff, but
it's you can do so much with Next.js and React and all that. And I will say the hardest part at first for me was just getting the project started. Like they're just the correct documentation on this stuff was just all over the place online. I've now gotten to a place where it's pretty easy. But like the great thing is if you don't want to worry about that and you just want to build something, go to Bolt or Lovable and they take care of all that. So like those are great options, right? And then you can just get in the flow. You can learn from using Bolt, like how it does certain things, what it's typing in the terminal, when it loads the program up, all this kind of stuff. You can start learning just by using Bolt, the certain processes. And then when you feel confident enough, you can go into Cursor or something similar and, start your own. But yeah, sometimes just starting a project can be really daunting when it's Next.js or React or TypeScript or whatever, because there's all these components you need and you don't exactly know how to get them all in the right spot and get them all working together. So yeah, it's definitely a little bit janky. But I would say if anyone's interested, just start messing around with it, because like I had zero coding experience and now I've been able to make like games and apps and all kinds of stuff.
Hey, John,
That's awesome.
Can I interject?
Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, the one thing that I found, coming from the previous world I was in, which I did do some coding, PHP, ASP, all that stuff, websites like what you were talking about, and the one thing I found is in every organization where you're successful is that the idea comes out usually as a basic, one premise or a few premises. And then from that, you have to diagrammatically, and the way I do it is I diagrammatically lay out something that's representative of most of the major functional areas. And then I get into an actual working flow and what the characteristics of things that go on before I conquer something that I'm going to like put into production. But if I'm doing like rapid development or testing or doing something, I do exactly what was it Dalen that was talking about? I do the same exact thing. I just dive in the water head first. I start talking to it and say, I want this. And then I realize, oh, but what I try to do when I'm doing that is keeping it in functional groups, to try to think in areas of grouping things so that you can talk to it just about, which is like telling it not to, don't change any of the existing logic. I just want you to look at that one input and I want you to add this to that one input, because I ran into the same thing on 3.7. It blew up some stuff last night when I was playing with it, switched to it on Cursor, and I had to get it to reverse. And then I finally just said, stop, I'll fix it. I had to dive into it and fix it. Yep, I had to dive in, fix it, And then I made a backup of it. I gitted it up, and I said, "Now don't do that again." So, and I didn't. So I was cautious after that.
I would say one thing too, like as someone coming from no background in coding besides like back in the MySpace days, a little HTML. Learning the structure of how to do things without actually knowing the code is really beneficial, because the AI, what I've learned from some dev friends of mine, is like it can get you to where you want to go, but it might take you the long way around, and like the way that's going to not be the best. But if you don't know what you're doing, you don't know that. So it's like, yeah, maybe you're getting your site to work or your game to work or whatever, but it's like very inefficient or not the way that like an actual dev would do it. So it's like if you can sort of educate yourself on like the ways to do these things, then when you actually go and try and do it, you can direct the AI, because the AI is really great when you know where you want to go and you know not to go the long way around and you just direct it. Then you can really start cooking. But when you're just getting started, you don't know what you're doing. that's where you can just be hitting your head against the wall.
So I have my AI tutor, and it comes with a chat bot called Glyph. But and then also, you have GTP, but to be talking to a functional chat bot while you're doing the coding, saying, I'm doing this, why am I doing this, why is this happening, I think can really accelerate that learning as well. And yeah, I think you're like having a coach over your shoulder. And the wonderful thing too is just taking screenshots. And yeah, I after it does something, I take a screenshot and I show it to it before it tells me where to go. But I did run into a round robin area the other day, and I've got to go back. I need to step away from it for a little bit, and I got to go back and get it going, and then I'll have my first AI agent that will be hosted on Vercel, and that's going to be super exciting. But yeah, this is a lot of fun, and I think that I'd love to hear if anybody else is able to do that, but to get a good AI speaking agent, whatever you want to call it, chatbot that is the capacities of Claude or something to talk to you while you're doing the work, I think would really be beneficial in a big way. That's my thoughts. Any thoughts on that?
I played around with some things. I haven't I could interact with it, but to run it parallel while I'm working, the resources that it takes on my machine, I need a little bit more machine. Because I do a lot of local stuff instead of using, because it's just I just want to, because I've got a decent Mac, and and it can handle some of the agents pretty good, the smaller ones. But once I get above about 14, it just can't handle it. I have to go up to the cloud. But that's what I want. I want and I'm not going to try to develop myself, but I know it's coming because I know there's a whole lot of focus on it. I just want to be able to talk to it. And it's like my journal. It's my inquire to get information that I need immediately, or if I'm working on something, it can look at the screen that I'm working on, and it can give me actually, it's like looking over my shoulder. And I've played with some simple AI interaction, speaking and visualization. I had it looking through my phone, and I'd walk around the room and have it speak to me what it was looking at. And it was taking slices of the video every 5 seconds. So, it wasn't moving real fast. I was taking my time, and I was letting it look at things. And then I would ask it, there's things that you missed in that picture. What was it that you missed? And these were local models. This was not a online model. So it's, Llama 3.0 is one of the ones I used, and it worked really well. I was surprised. And it's like I was using Whisper. I didn't like the voice on Whisper because Whisper has a limited range of voices. 11 Labs is what I normally use. So it's kind of like, that's the way. That will be the future, and somebody will come out with it, and they will make lots of money from it. So
Yeah, I mean, voice really matters. There's the tonality, what for certain applications or for certain things that the voice, you can control the voice. It's very helpful. And I just want to give a shout out to Rutro. Rutro posted up some really cool pictures on the purple pill. I believe those are done with Pixio. I don't know if you want to chime in and just let us know, but they're cool, a cool little dog surfer type of looks like a an NFT type of thing. Very cool. Mr. E.
I was just going to follow up with Dylan and others regarding Cursor. I subscribe to Windsurf, which also has Sonnet on the back end. Still today, I didn't see it plugging into Sonnet 3.7. That choice might be. Oops, no problem. I think we were okay, John.
Yeah, I made a mistake. I hit the wrong button. I apologize.
No problem. No problem. So what I did is I wanted to talk Dylan about how to keep things on the rails and just echo what Dylan said about. In fact, that was a great metaphor of the wet with the wet and dry with the dry and what order to mix things. I mean, anybody who's ever put cornstarch or a thickener in hot water knows that there's certain procedures that can make things go much better. And just like in the kitchen there, when we're cooking code, it's the same thing. So Dylan was 100% spot on with kind of that metaphor of making sure you know the principles. Okay, I got the concept of searing. I got this concept. So when you go back, that's where you start with the architecture and with the other stuff before you even get going with your project. And back to what I wanted to comment regarding these rules, whether you have Cursor rules set up, Windsurf has the same thing with Codium, the rules. There's actually two types of rule files that are read. There's two different files. There's a global rules file, which it doesn't matter what workspace you open up in that IDE, it will read that global one. So those are your rules that you always wanted to follow, no matter what project you're doing. You mentioned working in Swift. There could be other things, Python projects, you might be in that environment. You might be doing a React Next.js app, or I might be doing my Vite Radix stack that's a React. And so these are workspaces you might open up when you work with a particular stack. For any workspace you open up, you have local rules. So I have local rules for my Windsurf, which talk about that particular stack, what to use, certain things in there. And this completely keeps it straight and on the rails. It's just, you don't have to think about it. And I didn't write the rules files. I said what I want to do. Here's my standards. And assistants wrote the rule file for me. I think there is some limit to the length and the other stuff. So what I wanted to call attention to just as a technique, maybe you'll find this helpful, Dylan, is I have a standard 3-line header that's always respected in every one of my files. And the first line, in fact, the picture that I posted, it is actually non-conforming. What I did is I followed up to that post where I put the screenshot, and I put one more post that has 2 images. And this is to show that idea of the flow through your code and the effectiveness of diagrams. And so whether it's Mermaid or a dot diagram with GraphViz or Plant UML is my preference. It's one of the most capable, although GraphViz dot files are great. Mermaid's okay, that's the default for Sonnet. So you have to request something other than Sonnet if you ask for a diagram. Okay, I think diagram is the key word that gets you into that. Nonetheless, this is an example of a pummel diagram. So I've got the code that the agent generated to say, here's the flow based on the code and functions and our routes that we've defined. And it generates that flow. And then you can render that flow and see it, really clearly and quickly grok, this is how it's working. This is where that loop's going, and this is the termination, whatever. That will help keep things aligned at the beginning of your project. I would say a year ago, I got in trouble thinking, it's going to do this. And then you actually get under the hood and pay special attention to the flow, and you realize there was a fundamental thing all the way at the beginning. You have to go back to square one or two. So that's what those pictures are. And the other thing, by always putting the file name and a version in the header, it makes it easy to locally save a backup. And I have a whole, we can talk another time about a system for that. But when you go to edit that file and it gives it back to you, you just copy the file name first because it's always going to be there. So now you know, like nano this or new file, it's easy to create, and then you just dump in your content. So it makes even the copying, pasting so fast and fluid that literally you can be flowing through like, super fast. So anyway, just a couple more working things I thought I'd pop up given what you said, Dylan. Those are good points.
Thank you. And do you have any? I heard that Bolt, if you make something on Bolt, that'll have a tendency to break afterwards. Is there? Do you have any thoughts on that, or?
All of these are really made for a little bit simpler applications. Bolt.new, the Replit. The nice thing is that that's not the single page artifact. You are getting into having a scaffold, the directory structure, routes, things like that. Where I think people get into trouble is when you got to instantiate that, do it locally, set up all your directories, and that's where some of those in IDE tools like Windsurf or like Cursor are so helpful. And there are open source alternatives. There are some other things. I think Goose just came out by Block. So there are some interesting other alternatives. Oh, that's actually more of a UI, web UI. But nonetheless, there's a lot of things that even happening with open source in the IDE. So I found it tremendously valuable. If I had, like, when you think about, you've got the Swiss Army knife right now, we've got all these different tools and different features and models. It's pretty awesome. It's like the Swiss Army knife because each one of them does have some different skills that you can employ. But I mean, honestly, if I was down to only one, like, would it be the Claude 3.7 or would it be Claude through the Cascade Assistant with the Windsurf subscription? If I could only pick one and have one blade left, like, it might be the Windsurf. That subscription is probably the one I would keep, right? And I mean, I'm trying to do all kinds of reports to justify the OpenAI Pro. I'm finding it to set my goals for the number of reports, even a challenge, just the logistics. So that's the most questionable value right now, especially considering the play field, including this week with the speed of Grok 3, the good at code, the horsepower here with 3.7, bouncing them back and forth. OpenAI, we got to, they must be worried right now. So it's going to be interesting to see version 4.5 is rumored to drop soon. So we'll see if they can hang on to the subscriber or not. They're walking a tight line.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of shakeup between now and the end of the year in terms of where things are going to settle out. And I just saw something about the price of with Claude, the cost of it, the efficiency is gone up quite a lot. And if that keeps on happening, yeah, these huge investments now, I don't know if they're gonna, I guess maybe buy electricity with it. I don't know, Mr. E.
I'm good.
All right. Well, it's 2 hours here. And so I think we're going to wind up. Really can't thank everybody enough. Harsh, Paul, it's great to meet you, Paul. Hope you come back. You've been brought in a lot of great information, and this is a wonderful place to share and learn. And Dylan, thank you so much. I'm maybe I'll DM you and or Paul. See if what each other's doing. Alas is great. Mr. E's always bringing a lot of great information. Andy figured out how to get us. Now we're on Twitch and YouTube and X, and so we're starting to expand. And I really think that the information that we share is going to be really helpful to a lot of people out there, because imagine doing all this by yourself without anyone to talk to or share ideas. It's got to be a much more of a challenge. And that's a big thing. I think that hopefully things are going to turn around and people are going to get out of their house and feel more comfortable and start to see friends and family they haven't seen in a long time and all that stuff more than it's been for a while. So I could go down a lot of rabbit holes and tangents, but I don't think I will. And Rutro, again, great. Thank you for the images. Made my day. Super awesome. Great to see you, Sanin. I was hoping that you and Vladimir would continue that conversation, but I'm sure we'll do it on another day when it's better for everyone. Vladimir, Mr. Vladimir created a, let me see. I want to make sure I get the title of it right. It is the AI utility score, which I think we all will like to hear more about. And I think it's going to be, he's got an idea that has legs. If he doesn't do it, someone else will, because that's something that everybody needs when it comes to all of these new applications, tools, and things that are going to change, that are changing our lives, and they're going to change it even dramatically more as time goes on. So thank you so much for everybody who showed up. I really, really appreciate the space is only as good as the people who show up and share. And Andy and I are facilitators. Andy had a great metaphor with the big wave. It's coming. And I feel like the waves are peaking. We're looking down the face of it, and we're about to drop into it. And when we drop into it, you're going to see all those zeros and O's are going to build a tunnel, or what do they call it? A barrel. And we're going to barrel down this thing all the way up to the top of the mountain, because we've seen the wave coming. We turned our board to the shore and we start paddling, and we're about the same speed as it. And that face is about to get really big. So thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful day, and we will talk to you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.